Let's do it. I will now open the Estacada Urban Renewal Agency meeting. Can we have roll call, please?
Director Prokop? Here. Director Hughes? Here. Director McElroy?
Here.
Director Strobel?
Here.
Director Tenbush?
Here.
Chair Drinkwine?
Here, thank you very much for that. Okay, we are at the first citizen and community group comments. I have none in front of me. Are there any online?
There are two attendees, and I know one is Hannah, which will be
Okay.
speaking later on her application.
Okay,
And nobody has their hand raised.
all right, great, thank you. Okay, we are at the consent agenda. Can I get approval of the consent agenda, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, I have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
First and second, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. We are now at agency business and grant application for 355 South Broadway Street is the first on there.
Okay, fantastic. We have Hannah Smith online with us if you have questions for her, but Hannah Smith owns a building on Broadway. And she is requesting funding to update the building, and you have the application in your packet. And so and my packet's showing up all blank right now. Oh dear. Anyway, so I will let, does Hannah want to just, oh, she's in the meeting. Okay, perfect. So if you want to start with questions or just a brief introduction overview from Hannah.
Yeah, why don't Hannah just get on there and give us kind of a overview of what she's planning and what she hopes will come from this, and
Okay.
then we'll ask her a few questions and we'll get on with
Okay.
this.
Perfect. All right, Hannah. You're on mute. And so there you go.
Hey.
Hey, how are you?
All right. So I have me and my husband, James. Can you guys see us or is it just our voices?
We can hear your voices.
Awesome.
Maybe.
So we own 355 South Broadway. And we have been wanting to get this building built and up and running, but has just been taking a couple of years with just lots of hoops and hurdles, and here we are. And our final hopes right now, our goal is to open up hopefully by spring, summer next year, and have two storefronts on 355, two different retail spaces. And we just need some help finishing up the building because right now it's just kind of a rectangle skeleton.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we're at now. And we would like to see it finished.
All right, thank you, Hannah. Are there any questions for Hannah on the building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody like to know what exactly? Mike, go ahead.
So the forestry service and the Chamber of Commerce are going to be together in one half of that building.
It's a quarter of the building. Hi, this is James, Hannah's husband. So we're gonna split the building up and redo the storefront back to the original design that it used to be, which will be two spaces. We'll have a left space, which will be about 25% or so of the building, and that one is slated to or proposed to go to the U.S. Forest Service and Chamber of Commerce. We've had some meetings with the U.S. Forest Service people. They're very excited about it, as well as the Chamber, getting a home for them as essentially turning it into a visitor center and a local resource. The U.S. Forest Service has offered to take a look at reworking some of their schedules of their rangers so they can actually schedule out some Forest Service personnel to man the office on the weekends, pulling resources perhaps from different stations such as the New Sandy one that opened up, and allowing people to be able to purchase permits and learn about the resources as the river continues to open up upstream of us, as we expect there's going to be continued visitor increase with that. And then the chamber aspect of that will also just allow a central location to the town that will be an inviting visitor center to learn about why people should come to Estacada, as well as why we're such a great stop to those venturing up the river.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Sure, do you have any?
I see here that you're also looking at converting the space for occupancy for like above the retail space. Is that?
No,
No? Okay.
no, we're-
As of now, no, future perhaps, but now, not anymore, no.
Okay. Okay.
Nope.
I just, okay.
It was a thought.
Okay.
At one point.
Okay, Council Strobel.
So we got possible chamber and Forest Service in the one portion. What kind of interest have you had in the other portion?
we've had a couple different interests as far as potential retail space, potential service-based businesses, and as well as just different opportunities with people looking to build businesses out in Estacada, continued service such as like music industry. I know there's people looking for a location for a music school. And just things that can bring people to that downtown core, and not just during business hours like the chamber would be open, but extended into the evening hours and such.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? We thank you for that. We appreciate this. I think this falls in line with what we're looking for. So now we'll chat over that and see where we're at.
Thank you.
Do we need to make a decision on this tonight, or is this in the next that we're gonna do this?
You could make a decision tonight. There's a motion at the bottom of page 5. If you're inclined to make that motion, Councilor McElroy or board member
Go ahead.
McElroy. If the grant is approved through the urban renewal loan or grant, I apologize. When do you guys plan to start construction?
We've already got a demo permit, so we've already started on demoing our stuff, but we'd actually plan on the construction getting into the fall. And then just building out the plan for the winter and spring, so that way we could be finishing up at the end of spring, summer.
You guys already had the abatement done there? Was there anything to abate? Did you guys have it checked for abatement?
We did, and every test came back negative, so we've been good.
Good deal. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How are we sitting in the urban renewal budget? This is something that we could put in there comfortably without, putting any pressure on us with the Main Street coming up and everything else.
Yes, this is in the budget for this year, not this particular project, but a project of like this would be feasible in the budget that we have for our large grant program this year. And so it's good to go. It wouldn't cut into the Broadway necessarily according to the budget that we have lined out this year. Of course, we are coming to the end of the urban renewal time and maximum indebtedness allowed, which is the amount of money that can be spent. So we are everything that all the choices now are winding us towards the end. But this is a great project. And just a note on the chamber office not being located in City Hall anymore. We do have an agreement with them they were trying to get out by or move out by summertime, by July 1st, but they did not have opportunity to have a place to go. And so we said, why don't you just stay through the summer months when we have more tourists? So at the end of September, they will be moving out and working remotely. They'll still maintain the displays here with the brochures and everything. And of course, we obviously let them use, if they needed a meeting room or something. But we just really, with the way that city staff has needed to expand, we really need that office space. And so it's a little bittersweet because the chamber's been here for a long time, but I think this will be a great opportunity for them to be right out front on Broadway. And so just wanted to share that.
Well, that said, we are having a discussion now. I think we all are in agreement. We've been looking for something for the chamber to work feasibly between the city and where the chamber would go that would best fit our city. Now, putting the chamber in the downtown core is ideal because it puts them right on Broadway, smack in the middle. right where they should be. So this is a win-win, I think, all the way around. I'm hoping all of you are on the same page.
I really like the idea of changing it back to the way it was built historically.
too.
I like
I
that
do too.
aspect. So can I make the motion?
You surely can, my friend. Paul, do you want to add anything in, or are you good with this as well?
I'm good as well. All in favor.
All right.
Okay,
So I move to direct staff to prepare and sign a letter of commitment for a grant award to the applicant for the redevelopment of 355 South Broadway Street for the amount of $100,000 or 50% of the project cost reimbursement, whichever is less.
okay. I have the motion on the floor. Can I get a second to that?
Second?
All right, we'll do a roll call on this if that's okay.
Counselor Hughes,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
Yes.
Counselor Prokop,
Yes.
Counselor McElroy,
Yes.
Counselor Strobel,
Yes.
Chair Drinkwine,
Yes.
all in favor.
So Hannah, good luck. We hope it turns out well, and we'll be right here to help you if it doesn't. So keep us in the loop.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
And
you.
we appreciate you guys. God bless you and have a wonderful night.
You
thank
as
you
well.
so much.
Thank you.
Guys.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, next we have a Main Street construction update from Ellen.
Yes, we've received updated detailed plans from PGE engineers regarding undergrounding the power on Main Street. It's quite a lot more involved than we originally anticipated. So we have our engineering team here, Amy and Ed, and I'll let them introduce themselves. And really what we want to talk about tonight is the timeline and the financial impact of undergrounding the power. Any other questions that you have? Nothing's really changed in the plan or the design of the street. It's the biggest hurdle right now is whether or not to underground the power and the extended cost and timeline of that. So I'll turn it over to Ed and Amy and let you go ahead. Yeah, you'll have to use the mic so that Counselor Strobel can hear you.
Amy Levenhagen, Kern McLeod.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My name is Edward Hodges, and I'm a principal at Curran McLeod. I work with Kurt McLeod extensively, and I'm happy to be here, and particularly with the chief designer on this project, Amy.
Okay, so just to kick it off here, do you want to continue on with a little overview of what we've learned? Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
You paused and I jumped right in.
no, let me get this straight. My eldest son just got married and I had a free mic, which was really nice. So a little background on myself. I've worked with Kurt and before Pat Curran for about 13 years. And I think I have 28 years experience in municipal engineering, some of it in New England, most of it, 23 of it here in Oregon. And I've been an owner of the company for over 7 years. I work more north of you folks mostly. I do a lot of work in Happy Valley. I also work for a lot of our clients, water, wastewater, and small municipalities that are outside on the coast and also in central Oregon. A couple of months ago, maybe 2 months ago, I really started to discuss this project a lot with Amy and with Kurt. And I had a couple of concerns, but one of them, the biggest concern being that when the original estimate was done approximately 15 months ago, we really didn't have much knowledge of the electrical scope. And combined with that, there are some other factors that have, in the last 2 years, I've always been pretty aggressive or conservative when I make estimates of construction costs. Engineers overall are not particularly good at estimating construction costs. And I try really hard. I work with contractors. I try and get as much information as I can. And my philosophy is I'd rather have you guys upset now than after the bid. that, be that as it may, I've also just done some extensive electrical design out in Happy Valley. And so I've got a pretty good feeling as to what the market is like now with PGE and working with contractors. So we finally got to make the members of this board aware, if you're not, of the history. We started the design approximately, how long ago was it? Yeah, almost 2 years ago. We submitted an application for a design from PGE in October of last year, I believe, or somewhere in that time period. And at that point, for those of you who don't know, and I'm assuming that many of you are very well versed in this, you basically tell PGE what you're going to do, and then they give you a job number. And that's when they go to work and they look, at the power, what exactly is here now, what exactly is going to be required to upgrade it. So we did not get a lot of action out of PGE. I will state categorically that, I've worked extensively with PGE. I really like them a lot. They're very good people. It's a very good company. They do have a way of working at their own pace. And so when it came around in the spring of this year, I was hearing from Kurt and from Amy that we just weren't getting any information at all as to what this design was going to be. And so I did work and get a hold of some other folks I've worked with at PGE to try and basically get this process going. And a long story short, we had a preliminary design that came in July, I believe, late June or July. And now we received a final design several weeks ago. The result of that is I think you've received 2 estimates from me. I don't know if the first one was distributed. That was in July. And then now you have before you, I assume, the final estimate for the Main Street project. So this is obviously significantly more than the figure that you were given approximately 15 months or 2 years ago. And there's a number of factors for that. You have the numbers, I assume, with you with my memo, and you can delve into the details of this estimate, but it boils down to a couple of factors. And one is that kind of going back again to how my perspective of estimating has changed. And any of you who are in the construction industry or even just aware understand why, that in the last 2 years, we have just been beaten up so badly in our estimates because, due to procurement, due to various other issues, costs have gone all over the map. So any number I look at that's say 15 months old, I immediately bump it up by 25 or 30% just across the board. Because I just don't know where it's going to come in. So that's where I'm starting. So already the estimate's starting to increase significantly. But we do have also some fairly good design at this point, particularly on the civil aspect of the project. That design is close to 100%. And now we finally, as you know, have the final design of electric. So actually with the civil design, I was able actually to eliminate some costs in that scope, and you guys have streamlined the project from what I understand, and that has reduced costs as well. Unfortunately, what it boiled down to though, is that there were 2 areas that really brought the project up quite a bit. And the first one is actually stormwater was a bit more than initially thought in the first estimate, the estimate from 15 months or 2 years ago. And that was about 100 grand more when we got the final design for stormwater, just including more manholes, more pipe, more structures than anticipated. And again, my costs being a lot higher. 2 years ago, I would have said a standard manhole that's 6 feet, 8 feet deep. I would have said, oh yeah, it's $4,500. Well, now I say it's 8. And, hopefully if it comes in lower, then we're going to be happy instead of it, saying it's 5 and it comes in at 9. But then the biggest item was having this detailed design. And it's, as you all are aware, there's a significant substation here. The power that goes up Main Street is also a very significant part of Estacada's power grid, and it basically feeds the whole northern side of town. And so undergrounding this power, which seems like a simple thing to do, and this is really the case for any undergrounding, is extremely expensive. And the bottom line is that there were quite a few vaults required, quite a few different structures, a lot of conduit required. And I was very conservative about, you know, when you have small structures that are, say, off of Main Street, you know, a lot of them, you might be able to bore to them and not rip up sidewalk. At this point, because we're not finalized with the design, and also because I'm conservative, I just assume, okay, we're going to rip out the sidewalks in these areas and replace them. So I think the cost increase went for electric in the original estimate was about $360,000, if I remember. And now, just checking again, we're at about $670,000 for power. So the long and the short of it is, for you folks, is this project was estimated, you know, back at the beginning when you were getting funding and the like, to be about $2 million, including everything. Now we're at, I've just rounded up, it's about 2.5 million. The two estimates I gave you of, I think the one in July was approximately somewhere around 2.3 million. And this final estimate was about 2.45. So I just called it 2.5 million in my memo, but you know, the detail, you have the detailed numbers in front of you. So I understand that these numbers are hard. But again, I am a lot happier to be having this conversation with you now than with the bids in hand. And so that's basically what I'm here to talk about. And Amy has tremendous knowledge of this project from a design standpoint, but we're essentially here to answer any questions that you have and go from there.
Okay, well, you've heard that price tag. Now, if the shock wears off, and you just have the heart palpitation. How do you feel?
Well, considering that we just went from, you know, our wastewater treatment plant jumped from 20-some million up to 40-some million, this isn't as hard to stomach. This is a couple $100,000, and it gets us to the point where we want to be with, you know, getting all of our power underground, which is something that we've wanted for a long time. So I'm comfortable with this, you know, roughly $250,000 bump. I think, you know, I think we'll be able to figure it out, and it's what we want. It's what our community wants. So.
Oh, I'm gonna hit you right away there. Your hand's up, so.
Sure. I appreciate the background and the update on this. I've gone back and forth on this since I've seen the numbers. I would love to see the utilities underground. I think it looks neater and cleaner, but to me, the price tag it's quite a big jump there. And then also, it sounds like it's not just the price tag, but also the delay in the amount of time it would take to get this done. Is that right? Could you touch base on the length of time it would take to get things underground as well too?
So, yes, thank you for reminding me of that. Money gets me kind of obsessed, and then, but also schedule is important. You know, another thing that I've learned the hard way is, in fact, let me give you an example. I just bid about a week and a half ago, about a $4 million project in Happy Valley. And so in terms of scheduling, the way that I'm doing it now, after, and the city is really in agreement with me, after learning the hard way, is that we are estimating this project, and it's significantly bigger than Main Street, obviously, is going to take about a year and a half to complete. But the first 6 months of the project, we're going to do little or no construction. What we're going to do is line everything up. get, because the big delays in these projects come from PGE getting all their equipment in line, particularly with lighting, also with the vaults. And in fact, Happy Valley had a project on a street called 129th where this is about 2 years ago, where everything was going great. And then they could not get their wiring. We installed the vaults, everything got put in, and then there was a 9-month delay for wiring. And that was a pretty significant road artery was closed for 9 months. And it was a heck of a thing. I'd use a stronger word, but I'm in public. And so what we do now, and what I do when I schedule, and this is reflected somewhat in the schedule you've been given, is, I look at that first 4 to 6 months is all about coordination between the utilities and the contractor and the city. Making sure the contractors, even a year or two ago, just simple things like manholes, things that we never worried about procurement were hard to get. That is getting better, but vaults, conduit and the like still take a long time. The specialized equipment that you need, switch gear, all this specialized gear you need to underground the power. So the bottom line where I'm going is I've estimated in that project 6 months for procurement and scheduling, and then they start and construction's about a year. So it's about a year and a half. And this logic was basically applied. I just looked at the scheduling that I have, and I think where I'm ending up is about a little over a year from now. In fact, I think the schedule's a little better. We're looking at closing this out. The last closeout, it starts, if we started in the early fall, which right now our design is in really good shape. I mean, it's, PG, once they got going, they did a super job, gave us the information we need. We need to get a little bit of information from your one comm provider out here. That's another thing in other cities. It's very, very tough dealing with the comms and the delays of going from overhead to underground. But getting all these ducks in a row, us getting this thing bid in the fall, early to mid fall, then working on the procurement, getting going next spring with starting to install the components and working through the summer, finally getting towards the end of the summer and getting paving, getting the civil work done. If we get to go ahead, you would get this project would be, hopefully I'd be sitting here telling you that, yeah, we're probably, we're looking at paving at the end of the month in 2024. And then after that, depending on how the undergrounding of the power went, you'd have closeout in fall, early fall. So the bottom line, you're looking at a little over a year, 14, 15 months to do this project. Again, I'm very conservative with time, gotten burned quite a bit. Another process, and I'm sure many of you know this, you work in city government, you've seen other projects around here. Scheduling, going from overhead to underground, just getting the poles down takes a long time, because PGE they'll get all their ducks in a row, and it'll take them 4 or 5 months to come off of the pole. And then they tell the comms, okay, by order of preference on the pole, you have 60 to 90 days to remove your line. Here you may have 1 or 2 lines, but if you have 3 or 4 comm lines, all of a sudden you're looking at almost another year just to get the poles down, get the comms off, to get the power off. So I think your lines are a little simpler here in terms of comms, from what I understand. And so again, the schedule is in that approximate 12 to 15 month period.
So
depending on
from a
when you start.
business, I'm sorry to interrupt, but from a
No, go
business,
ahead.
from a business disruption standpoint, then that's what I'm concerned about is what kind of impact would it have to the businesses on Main Street? Are we looking at maybe a year's worth of disruption then?
No, I would say that you're looking at, and I apologize, I've been out and about, so I'm reviewing the schedule again. But I think where I see it is you've got a really heavy hit on Main Street for about 4 to 5 months. And that would come primarily in the spring and summer of next year.
And that would be due to undergrounding. things.
Undergrounding, yeah, digging the joint, you have to dig trenches to put the power in. You take out the sidewalks at that point. That's when you really get in and start to do a lot of demolition and then start to build back, and so you can get the components in place.
So what would the time frame be if you didn't underground?
Oh, short. I mean, this would be a dramatically different project. There's no getting around that.
How would the budget be impacted by that difference?
Oh, well, it'd be significant. I'm being cautious in what I'd say, because I think if I just say something off the top of my head, I'm gonna underestimate how much it would impact the project. I mean, you'd see, so you're saying no undergrounding at all? Is
No,
that-
I'm just asking question. I mean, and I prefer underground.
Yeah,
just,
I,
Um,
but I probably 500,000 or more.
I mean,
you
I'm
know?
kind of a buy once, cry once kind of a person.
Mhm.
I just see costs going up and at some
Yes.
point, things are gonna have to go underground and it's just a question of when we're gonna do it. My other concern is because we live in a very fire dangerous
Yes.
area,
Yes,
especially with what's going on with Hawaii. I'm like seeing, these electrical poles blowing up around and I'm like, oh, nope, we're not doing that here in Estacada. So those are my concerns. So as much as I don't want to be like, here's a bunch of money, just, but I'm just asking questions just to get an idea, big picture, underground versus not, timeframes, so on and so forth, but.
yeah, it would knock the project price probably back under 2 million, I'd have to go back and look at the numbers, but obviously the cost would be significant. But I think I will say, gosh, these things, and you folks know it, you see this all the time in your jobs, is that this infrastructure of any type, it's painfully expensive now, and then it just gets worse and worse. It's, it's never going to get cheaper, that's for sure.
Heidi, do you want to add anything?
No,
All right.
Could you explain the design at 300 Main, what that came back from PG? It looks like, are they bringing it back by the hardware store and then there's going to be a pole and then it's going to be overhead going back, or is it all completely underground now?
I'm gonna let Amy do that. No, go right ahead.
So the way the design is now, there will be poles on on Main, north of Third Avenue and north of the 300 building.
Okay.
So the last vault that will be installed will be in the right of way, but essentially right next to the 300 building.
Gotcha.
And Paul, you have something else?
Yeah, checking in here, I was a big supporter of going underground as well too. I just felt like it was the way to go. Too, one, it looks neat, it looks clean, but also my thought was from kind of like Councilor Hughes was saying, or what sounded like she was saying, the service standpoint, the stability and safety. But Melanie, I don't know if you could touch base on this, but you touched out to PGE and sent us a note back, and it doesn't seem like their feeling is that it would be a big benefit for the city to go underground, at least from a service standpoint. Can you touch base on that more, unless I'm misreading it here?
Is that okay, Mayor? Okay, sure. I sent this out today, just got it today from PGE. First of all, I want to say that the team leading the Broadway project, I'm more and more impressed with how that went, because we did that in like 4 months or less on Broadway. And granted, it was a totally different time than it is now. It was very different, but it was agonizing. It felt like it was forever. And then in hindsight, it was really about 4 months. And this turned out beautiful. But times are different now. And we did reach out to PGE and ask about any type of an advantage to them, seeing if they might cost share with us. That was my thought. The email we got today said that there isn't a large advantage from a power outage standpoint in having those lines underground. But they are going to ask for, and I'm sure that maybe you know this, but they'll pay for they're gonna put in additional conduit so that they're prepared for later. That they would pay for 2 additional 6-inch conduits up Main Street to accommodate future new feeder that will come out of the substation across the highway to support the added load of the new subdivisions off Deuce Road and others in the area. They don't know when they're gonna need that, but they're gonna take advantage of this to put those conduits underground. She says if we were to leave the overhead that is currently there and then they come through later and install the new feeder overhead as well, because everything will be overhead, there is potential for the need to add additional poles or anchors along Main Street if that's still the best path to the Deuce Road area. So
And I asked them specifically if they would assist with us due to fire danger, considering we've had several fires right next to the city. And they said they could not sell that because the fire station is right there. And so they did not feel that the fire danger would be high enough for undergrounding this section in order for their cost to pan out because the fire station is right there.
So we have tried to pull them in with us as much as we could. But that is something to consider, that there will be additional, it sounds like they'll have additional things to add overhead if we don't underground. So just one more thing to consider.
There's no credits coming back from PG because the service is already established and there's no new draw. Is that
Right, they didn't indicate that there would be any credits
okay?
to come back, no. But this is the kind of the one time we have, we have urban renewal funding, but whatever we spend it on means we don't spend it on something else. So there's, you guys never get easy questions. There's always competing priorities.
Would there be any financial assistance from Comcast or Reliance Connects? Would there be an opportunity from either of those two?
Not that I haven't asked them. It would be voluntary when we underground, not out of necessity. And you might be able to explain this more, but when it's not necessity that we're undergrounding, then we have to cover the cost of doing that. I think that's.
For Reliance, not for Comcast, because they're not there yet, right?
They would just put their, right, they just drop their conduit in the ground, and I'm not sure how they would do that.
They're on the other side of the ditch. Are they on the same?
Yeah, typically, I mean, usually the comms they just ride along depending on your franchise agreement. I know in the other cities I work in, the cost benefit is simply that there isn't much cost. They do take advantage of the trench being open and they get their wiring, their conduit in it and take care of, what's necessary.
Okay, Council Strobel.
Thank you. It seems like from a financial standpoint, we've got the urban renewal funds to do this. But my concern is more that disruption to the businesses. Right now, it sounds like we're looking to 4 to 5 months, and who knows from there with anything. We as well as Broadway went, we did have a lot of setbacks on Broadway as well too. My concern is that disruption to the businesses on Broadway. My own business, we can work virtually, but the other ones that are more reliant on people coming into the stores, that's what I'm concerned about here. 4 to 5 months is quite a bit of disruption for them, especially if we're looking at something that could be done quite a bit less time as well too. So my feeling is I would prefer just going ahead with the shorter route. At this point, it doesn't sound like PGE has any plans to completely underground the power there. If the long range plan was to get everything underground, it'd be to me a different conversation, but I'm not completely hearing that. Is that correct? Or am I on base there, on track?
That's correct. They would just continue to use the overhead infrastructure to expand in the future.
Okay. Mike, did you have one more question? You had?
Quick question. If you do underground it, are we planning on putting any extra conduits in for future comm services or anything like that's coming in so they don't have to tear stuff back up? Is there going to be any extra conduit going in the ditches?
I would say yes. I just don't know the extent at this time. But yeah, you would want to throw some futures in because it's really pennies on the dollar.
I know it's
At that point.
a rough estimate, but how much time would we save by not undergrounding the power?
Oh,
As far as the disruption for businesses?
I think you would save at least a month or two. You know, I'm trying to tell it like it is, because you know, it's these folks' business and this is not a significant length of street. So if it was just a civil street where you go in and tear out the road and the storm would create a bit of a mess installing, you're gonna do that no matter what. I think it would be more along the lines of a 3 to 4 month project.
Just kind of thinking from our history on Broadway.
Yeah.
When we did Broadway, because of the extent of the work that was being done, they shut down the whole road for 4 months. That's why it seemed like it took forever.
Mhm.
Would this road be shut down? Would there still, how would that, I mean, I know until you get a contractor on board, you don't know exactly how it's going to roll, but how do you see it working out so that there would still be access to businesses from vehicles, or would sections of the road literally be shut down for months at a time? Do you have any idea about that?
Boy, that is a great question. And well, the first thing I'll say is I don't know. But secondly, I would say that I would think you're gonna see a bit of both. I mean, that's what I typically see, and I'm sure that was the case. Well, Broadway, it sounds like was an exception. You just said, okay, we're gonna get it done. And everything's coming down. The big part of the power infrastructure, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, is on the east side. On the east side. So, in terms, those folks there, quite frankly, businesses along the east side are definitely going to be impacted significantly more than businesses on the west side of the street. I certainly would see the potential for some one-way traffic during this project with periodic closures of either block areas or perhaps the whole area.
You speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
The Broadway project had a complete road rebuild. This one has about 10 feet out from the curb and back toward the property line on both sides. So there's up to 24 feet of road that is not being replaced, just overlaid at the end of the project. So I think he's right. There will be times when the blocks are closed down, but there should be at least one lane for through traffic throughout most of the project. Whether those cars are able to park and access buildings is another question.
When we went out and walked and looked at the businesses to see who would have access from side streets, the only business who did not have any access is Sol Tapatio, which is on the east side of Main Street. So they would be the most impacted business.
Sure.
So that's what going through my head, looking at, putting the businesses in order. The only two businesses that don't have access from, side streets are Sol Tapatio and State Farm. Would it be possible during construction? We don't own the property, so I guess it wouldn't. But building a driveway to where they could, they could come off the side street and go in through the back of their drive-through, just so that they still had access. But we don't own that property, so.
That'll be a tricky one.
All right, so have we answered most of the questions there? All right, my question to this is, I'm having a real hard time figuring out how from Broadway to Main Street, we can be talking this much difference. I know prices have went up, I got that, I see it out there every day. But the amount of time we're talking about to do Broadway when it went to completion, and now to do this one is night and day. Do we have a lack of communication with PGE? Are we not I mean, we're a big partner with them. I know that. And it took a long time to get them on the ground here. And now we're right up to the door. And it's put back time immensely from what we had there. Is there something different that I don't know about? That went on with PGE, or we're not talking to the right people, or what's the deal?
Well, some of it is, there've been a bunch of retirements at PGE. So there've been some people that were there for decades and decades that aren't, and I think that's part of it. Another factor is the amount of power. So, and so if the higher capacity, the power lines, the more technically complex it is to underground them. One of the things that appears to be a holdup for PGE is that they're going to add additional capacity, or their plan was to add additional capacity to those lines. And I think what we were told was, I'm going off of memory, if we weren't to underground them, they were actually looking at adding was it a pole or two?
They said a pole, they said add additional poles or anchors
So
if needed.
So they're trying to, part of their calculation is, okay, what's our current power capacity need? What's the future power capacity need? And then how can they serve that? And if you guys don't want to underground, I think we would need to go, we would want to go back to PGE with that, just so you could understand what this would look like if we keep it above ground, because I think it's going to change. And then the other thing is that some of the recent new construction, you know, they've got modern sidewalks in front of them right now. And so I don't know if there are any savings that could be achieved there, just based on the recent construction that's occurred. I don't know that there are, but I understand exactly what you're saying. And, you know, I personally have seen in my other cities, construction costs going up 30% or more, but this does seem, very spendy.
I would have, I guess in hindsight, looking at the power lines that were running on Broadway versus looking at the power lines that are running on Main, I should have been able to look at those and go, this is a different animal on Main Street, because it's their feeder lines that run uptown. And that if I would have been more observant, I would have thought this is probably going to be a lot more spendy versus just the lines that were feeding, you know, downtown Broadway. So in hindsight, that I could have estimated that we could have anticipated it better. But I think that has a lot to do with it, just the magnitude of the power lines that are on Main.
You know, if I can add in one thing, I don't know. I mean, I certainly was working with Kurt when you guys had the Broadway project, and I came afterwards when you guys had a festival, which was really great, and drank some beer down on the street, which is even better. And in my world, Happy Valley, the other cities where I've been doing a fair amount of power work, it takes about a year to get anything out of them for plans, and that's where kind of when I started with my initial comment, because I really do like them a lot, and they just kind of work on their own time frame. Fortunately, when there's an emergency, that time frame, as you all know, speeds up dramatically, but in design, it does seem to take a long time. So it seems like Broadway went very well in that aspect. I'm not seeing the timeline that you got your plans here as something that's incredibly abnormal.
Right, so tonight you're looking for a
You're
yay or
ready.
nay on.
If you're ready to make a decision on,
Or if you need more information, such as if we don't underground, this is what else is going to be in that right away. That's something we could probably get from PGE.
it would set us back a month from knowing our direction, but
Here, you have one more thing you want to add?
Yeah, so my concern is, so this roughly $2.5 million project. You know, if we don't underground, this could potentially cost the city of Estacada the next time this road is done. This project could be $10 million. You know, so you know, especially with the way prices are going and everything. you know, I can't see pushing that, you know, the possibility of that much onto the, you know, future residents of Estacada. So, you know, that undergrounding the power was, you know, being part of this project from basically the beginning. Undergrounding the power was a big thing early on. And it's just been a, you know, ongoing thing. We've never talked about not doing it. And then, you know, $250,000 is the difference. And, you know, I can't see, you know, putting that off for the next group 20 years down the road.
Is it gonna be undergrounded everywhere in the city, or are we just talking about undergrounding it in this section here? And then everywhere else it's gonna be overhead? It's overhead coming into it, right? It's overhead going out of it, right?
Yep. It was
Yeah.
We're just talking about undergrounding one section.
Couple blocks.
Okay,
as our kind of our downtown core. But yeah, it's just a couple blocks. I wish it was that, you know, this cost and time frame for going from the highway all the way up to Sixth or something. But it's not, it's just down here.
are we planning on undergrounding the rest of the power in the city?
So when new developments come in, they're required to underground. So, but we have in our code that if they're doing a development over a certain amount, that they have to underground for that. But for us, for the city, we don't have plans to underground anything else.
Okay.
And what all does the power supply for Main Street? So how, if we underground, I mean, I just think that I prefer underground, but what does this supply, this Main Street area? Like Harvest Market, like where does it go?
Good question.
I think I don't know. Do you know, Amy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all the businesses on the east side, McCray Hotel. And there's actually 4 services over there. And that's basically it. The main thing is that this is really 2 kinds of undergrounding. We've got everything that was done on Broadway that's happening. And those are like 4-inch lines that would normally come off the pole and go into a trench. But there's also 6 6-inch conduits that hold all the feeder lines from the substation that go up the hill. So they're all in the same trench, but it's just a lot bigger, a lot more of it is what it is. But in terms of the businesses, there are only about 10, I think, total on this, in these 2 blocks.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's really about those 6-inch lines heading up the hill and north of here. I mean, that's the rest of your town. That's what you're really upgrading. You're not, Main Street is cosmetic. It's the big flow of power north.
All right, well, you've heard the weight. It's a big decision to make, but it's yours to make. So I'm gonna put it out to you. I don't think we need to wait any longer. We've already put this job off long enough. We're going into the fall now to get the road done, which means to me a muddy mess and a pain in the rear. So let's make a choice. We'll put it up for a vote. So how would you like the motion to read?
Somebody could make a motion to underground the power or to not underground, whatever motion you feel so called to make, and see what the support is for that. That'd be probably the best.
Okay,
First.
and let's do roll call on the vote, please.
So I make a motion to move forward with the plan as designed, as currently designed.
For underground.
Yes.
Okay. That's the motion I have on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a first and second. So I want to give roll call.
Counselor Hughes,
Yes.
Counselor McElroy,
No,
Counselor Prokop,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
Yes.
Counselor Strobel,
No,
Chair Drinkwine.
No.
So motion 3,
3 yes, 3 no.
3 yes, 3 no. So motion fails.
So
So we'll make a motion to revise the design.
I'd like to make a motion to revise the design to overground the power and move ahead with the rest of the project.
First on the floor, second.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have 2 seconds. Can I have a roll call, please?
Counselor Hughes,
Since it failed, then yes.
Counselor McElroy,
Yes.
Counselor Prokop,
Yes.
Counselor Tenbush,
No.
Counselor Strobel,
Yes.
Chair Drinkwine.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you for that. Okay, now we have a direction. Let's hope we can get this done, huh? All right. Next citizen and community group comment. I have nobody online. Is that right?
No one online has their hand raised.
Okay, and no forms are handed in, so we're good there. That's for
For
the next
urban
meeting. Is that for
renewal?
the city council?
Do you have forms for the urban renewal agenda? Okay.
All right, and then any board member comments? Do I have any you'd like to make? Well, is everybody good? No? Paul, you have anything?
Nope, nothing further. Appreciate the discussion. I learned a lot today. Thank you.
All right, thank you. This meeting is adjourned. You have about 5 minutes and the city council start. If you wish to